This
both ends.
conference will now
So
be recorded.
happy to learn from your experience as well, and let me know what you think. So today's session will be, it'll be a short and sweet one. So firstly, I'm just gonna start with a short self-introduction of myself for those who maybe haven't met me before or like want to get some information and stuff. And okay, you can hear me, right? Okay, and the next portion will be sharing on data and analytics and how we should think about it. Why is data so important for enterprises, and what are some of the key challenges that they are facing now? And also, of course, some recommendations or some how should we start think how should enterprises start thinking, right? And the last portion will actually be about Q&A and discussion, and this will take up about the bulk of our time today. So that's how this whole session will go. Okay, so yeah, about myself, my name is Regine. Currently, I'm working as a business analyst in a consulting company, and previously I've worked in many different technology related companies on topics related to enterprise technology, data, cloud, and many other digital topics in general. So I worked in Google and also Mercedes-Benz, Accenture, and many more. And I think, from these different experiences, I'm able to sort of triangulate all my experiences and how, at different enterprises, whether it's a technology company. Okay, you can't hear me. Yeah. So anyway, I hope most of you can hear me. But okay, so people can't hear me. Is it just me? Because it's like, okay, who can hear me? Okay, so I mean, I just continue. Yeah. So yeah, so I mean, what I'm saying is that from my different experiences, yeah, I think I have the good understanding of how different companies are thinking about data, whether it's a technology company, or whether it's a large MNC, or even consulting firm as well. And today I'd like to share that during this session with you. And of course, I'm still very new in my journey as well. So happy to learn from your experiences. Okay. So, oh yeah, and one last thing on the share is also I previously started. I mean, before I joined my current company, I used to run a pretty successful enterprise technology company, and we also specialized in data platforms and data analytics topics. But we work very closely with enterprises to identify their challenges and devise ways to create a holistic platform for them, that automated platform. So that's something I'll share in the later portions. But I mean, just starting off, for most people who want to know a bit more about what's currently the situation. So in many enterprises, data management is a significant topic, right? Because and it's also becoming increasingly complex, and at the same time, it's top of mind for many executives across the value chain, whether they are in regardless of industry and regardless of where they are in the supply chain is a highly important topic. And the last point is also, it correlates to the first point, which is that standardization mechanisms for the exchange of data and information are sorely lacking in enterprises. So I think many of you who are familiar with this topic might know about, how, I think there's two key, from my view, there's two key areas where enterprises are facing a lot of challenges. So first of which is, that there's many different division. As companies are growing bigger nowadays, there's many, teams, there's many functions, there's, even different geographies and regions and, different ways of storing data, different ways of capturing data, and different ways of, ingesting and aggregating the data as well. And this leads to a lot of concerns with regards to data inconsistencies and also missing data. So when, and now a lot of enterprises, as we can see, are looking for many different ways to find holistic data platforms as their key solution. But given the current situation where, internally there's a lot of different ways of storing data, this creates a lot of challenges when it comes to actually aggregating the data into a single platform. So this is one big challenge that they face. And at the same time, do not forget that in many different countries, there's also restrictions when it comes to storing data and also exchanging data. Especially, I'm not going to mention specific countries, but there are regulations in place where data can't be transferred out of a country. So that also creates a second layer of complexity where companies, they're facing a lot of challenges with regards to how should they think about storing data, and where should they base their central operations when it comes to the data management team. So this is another big concern for them. So that's the first main challenge. Data complexities related to inconsistencies and also regulations. Second main challenge, of course, this is not completely exhaustive, but this is, in my point of view, second main challenge, and would be actually more of the manual processing portion. So, as much as many companies, and of course, as they grow bigger, right, it gets increasingly difficult to have a standardized mechanism of how people collect and input data. And in many large companies, another major challenge that they face is that a lot of this data entry and storage is very manual, it's very repetitive, and it's very time consuming. And as many people would like to think, oh, there's RPA and you can easily automate this data collection process and whatnot. It's definitely more complex than that. And this also creates another big challenge because there are, just imagine in the office, there are people there just to transcribe data from a piece of paper or some other storage artifact into the computer for as in to store data online. So this is another big concern, and especially with regards to productivity and cost, definitely. And at the same time, these people who are transcribing data, of course, definitely, one might think that they could find more meaningful and interesting work to do rather than repetitive data transcribing. So that's another big challenge. Okay, so moving on to the next page. So why is data so important? This relates to my first point, which is with regards to data complexity. So as we can see from this slide, right, there's many different failure points, or there's many different points where data is actually being captured and stored. So there's data recording where a lot of data sometimes are not captured, and this leads to missing information, and that missing data equals to you don't have the data to process and analyze. And then next stage is actually on data transmission. So data is not streamed or stored. Okay. Data management, data is not accessible. So this is another big concern. So when we think about data, we need to think about it from that it's not just in a IT company, or it's not in a startup. It's something some enterprises are extremely big, and they store data in many different ways. It doesn't, they don't just store it on the computer, on the phone. They can store it on the paper, and it never reaches the eyes of like someone sitting in the central office. It could forever be in a factory, or like a production plant or production site. So this correlates to the portion on data management and how it's inaccessible. Even though the data is there physically, it is not visible to anyone else who doesn't have the physical copy. So this is another significant concern. The fourth stage is more on analytics and automation. So data is not put into context. So yeah, some companies, they are able to collect, very very comprehensive amount of data. They have cleaned it, is processed and everything, but it's not put into context. So it is, the data is not usable, or it's not easily usable because it is not it is not put in context essentially. And last portion, the second last portion is about the visualization bit, where data is not analyzed, and then lastly, data is not used in decision making. And the last one is actually something that a lot of people fail to see the importance of it, because even though many enterprises are able to store data, analyze data, and all of that, sometimes it doesn't go. This actually concerns more of a management mindset, more of the people and culture, more than the actual technology. So having a culture shift and management shift in terms of mindset is also very important when we think about how we use the data. So interesting point is that actually less than 1% of information gathered from different data points are actually used for making decisions, which is just drilling it down is actually like 300 data points out of a myriad of data points, right? And so typically data challenges exist, but as you can see over here, there are a lot of leakages from the first stage of data recording to the last stage of decision making, and this leads to a lot of loss of data, with regards to people or technology, or even just the whole process. And so this is the challenge, but what does it really mean for businesses in a sense? So this is how people enterprises typically process their data, right? They first define it, and then which takes about 3 to 4 weeks, and then they process it, and then they start to do the analytics and modeling, because there's a lot of use cases which will require analytics, for example in sales, or even in optimizing the fleet schedules, or optimizing like supply chain operations in general, and after implementing the data. Okay, so I see one question, which is, if the issue is that of mindset, how do enterprises come around? Yeah, so this is a great question. And I think that, enterprises, the thing that they're looking at is always the top line. They're always looking at, how much will this save me, or how much will this make me in terms of like profit uplift or cost reduction. So it can come from both ways. It can come from many different ways, whether it's cost reduction, profit uplift, or just simple productivity uplift. But essentially, it comes, and this very much comes to analytics, and for example, okay, if you have great analytics, you could easily upsell customers, or use dynamic pricing, and analyze the customer data, cluster them into different groups, and then start give them different prices. I think this is how many, as you might know, many companies, especially travel sites, are using this analytics to actually perform dynamic pricing. So this is not something new, but this is something that actually has been very fundamental to how they actually make money. So it's important. And so, but going back to this slide, so you can see over here that there's a lot of loss of data from the previous portion, and what that leads to is actually a longer processing time. So in enterprises, and especially when it comes to fast moving and highly competitive markets, speed is of essence, and typical processing times can actually significantly increase because of poor data quality, or poor accessibility and reusability. And the another thing that is of concern is that a lot of projects not scale. So they only start off as like pilots or ideas, but they don't actually work out because of the simple lack of data inavailability or poor quality. So this leads to significant business loss. If you're looking at an organization of 50 billion, it could easily, account for 0.5, okay, 0.5% of their total revenues at least. And of course, depends on the nature of the organization. So it could easily scale. I mean, there are many organizations that are simply making money off having great data analytics. Okay, so going to this next slide. So now that we know the challenges and what are the implications of having good data or insufficient data or simply the lack of data, how should organizations and enterprises start thinking about data platforms? This is a very simplified model, but essentially I think, as you might have heard before, it's very important to have a single source of truth. And when I say single source of truth, or when people say single source of truth, something that people get wrong is that you're thinking like, okay, for an organization of like 200,000 people, there's like one single platform to store data. That's not how single source of truth is defined. Single source of truth is defined for the kind of data domain or data type that you're actually being stored. So if it's customer data or sales and transactions data, so that's a kind of under one group. With the same use case, same analytical use case, that is under one data platform. And if it's something different, like financial data, okay, financial and and salary and pay and all of that, okay, that's another separate data domain. So I mean, how we should be thinking about single source of truth and a holistic platform is not so much about just apply one fit all solution to a enterprise. It actually concerns a lot of intricacies and also understanding of the context that the data is being used for and creating that. And actually this slide is very interesting because now there's actually many different data sources. So if we go from the bottom to the top, data sources, we start from data sources. There's many different data sources coming into our way. I mean, usually typically companies use historical data sources. They like track their data for past like few years, and then they start processing it. So that's how it usually went. But now of course data is getting real time, that's one, but there's also many different devices that can be used as well, and also like from social media, just the website alone, SEO related, and applications if the organization has an application, and even clickstream where you're able to track the clicks, or the customer journey for every user when you're on the web. So that's very interesting because they're able to really get from the different data customer touch points and really able to see where and how this customer is thinking about the company. And not just that, so when we talk about data sources, there's typically two types of data that we look at. There's structured data and there's unstructured data. So structured data is the historical data, and even maybe from some websites that actually are able to feed you the structured data. But what about unstructured data? For example, images or videos and all of that. How is that being stored? So a lot of organizations find it difficult to store unstructured data, especially if they are using traditional or legacy storage platforms. So and especially now with very interesting new technologies that companies in the supply chain industry are using, or logistics industry are using. For example, Internet of Things, where they're actually connecting to different devices, even sensors, cameras, biometrics and all of that. There's many different kind of data that will need to be stored, whether it's for security purposes or for analytics purposes. And not having this data platform, or we continue to use the legacy platform might actually cost this organization a lot of money because they're not able to capture all of this data. So that's why having a holistic data analytics platform that's able to accommodate different data types, different data sources, connect to different data sources, and at the same time is very specific and best in class for a particular data domain is very important. So going up to key applications. So now we're looking at this from like where's the data source from and how is it applied. So it will be applied in applications, and I'm going to go through another structure where we can see how we can think about this. But essentially, a good data analytics platforms will decouple its data from the sources and applications. So it's standalone, and at the same time it promotes accessibility, good data quality, scaling, and security. Okay, so this is the last portion. So yeah, going back to the what I was saying just now about, you know, about the applications, how would the data be used? So remember I was talking when we were talking about data sources, so the different kind of data sources, and then how data is integrated into, you know, into the platforms, right? And stored in the platforms as well, in a secure and accessible format, and after that consumed. And so this is the general flow of how we would think about that, how we think about, you know, data. And let's dive a bit deeper into data consumption. So going back, it's actually more focused on, you know, analytics and how we can actually use that and integrate that into the different applications that organization has. Okay, and going into the fifth bucket, which is focused on data quality. So this is I mean, for enterprises that are a bit more sophisticated and advanced in their digital transformation journey, the key issue that they face is with regards to data quality. And this goes back to having clean data stored in, you know, structured formats, and and it also ties to, you know, having data governance as well. But data quality, there are actually many tools out there, data management tools that are able to help you clean the data and process it before it's being, you know, stored and piped into the analytics platforms. And going to the last one, which is on data governance. So data governance is more focused on people and processes. So whether there are structures in place, governance structures in place in an organization to ensure that the data is, you know, being kept in quality format, that's accessible, it is standardized across the organization, and having a strong commitment, not just from the IT portion of a company, right? As many people call it, but also from the business end, is very important, and that's where, you know, their participation and their commitment towards having data governance is very important. And don't forget, data governance and data is not important only to the IT division. It is equally as important to sales or to finance or HR or, you know, like logistics, you know, many different areas. So essentially, these 6 building blocks are very important in how we think about data. And it's essential for companies who want to succeed in their digital transformation journey, or, you know, in their data transformation, or in thinking about how to leverage data to excel in all 6 areas, and having best-in-class tools and processes to excel in these areas. Okay, so that is really the content that I have for today, and how we can think about data. So happy to answer any questions, and let me know what you think, whether it's questions or comments or even your experiences, and yeah, I'd love to hear about them. talking about this one? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think I didn't mention, I mean, yeah, forgot to dive because I was a bit focused on the defining and processing part. I think it's important to also look at 3 and 4, as mentioned by Subir, about modeling and implementation, which I didn't cover in detail just now. Okay, so when it comes to modeling, now that we have the data that has been processed and cleaned, structured, and then analyzed, when it comes to modeling and defining analytical use cases, firstly, it's very important to define what's the outcome and what is the problem that we are solving for. So let me think of another example. I mean, because I used to work in many different like consumer-facing companies, I would just use sales-related problems as the example. So for example, the problem is, okay, how can I get customers to buy more insurance for their families, for their cars? Okay, so like car, okay, maybe not for their families. Okay, so how can I upsell car insurance to consumers when they buy a car from me? So that's the problem. And then the problem is also that, okay, because typically, even it doesn't correlate. It's very hard to upsell car insurance because they typically have their own providers ready, or they have better. How many members use, sorry, in the family? Okay, how many their routes? Sorry, Subi, I don't. So I'm trying to understand what do you mean the risk? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so maybe let's go back to the family members one, right? Yeah, which Subir very interestingly point out his or her thinking. So he said, I mean, he or she says that he's thinking. So he says that, okay, analyze how many members use in the family, the routes, yeah, with regard, I mean, how they are actually driving and their risk factor, which is very good. I mean, and which is very accurate. And how do we get that kind of information? Anything and any thoughts about that? How can we get the information about their level of risk or their propensity for risk and accidents and danger? And how can we also predict or get data on their routes? How do you think that can happen? I mean, how do you think we could actually source for this data? Okay. Hmm. So okay, so Bia mentioned from a third party. So who would be the third party? Yeah, I mean, okay, but sadly Google doesn't actually. I mean, unless you're a very big company, or you're like a partner of them, which is, let's assume that that's not the case. It's hard to get this data from them. So how do you think you can get their risk factor? Okay, maybe I will just share my thinking, but feel free to share if because definitely it's not exhaustive and we're just problem solving here together. So maybe, okay, if I want to assess the risk factor of family members so that I can upsell them insurance, maybe I'll be also looking at I'll be looking at, I mean, if it's assuming that it's available, I'll be looking at their history of accidents, or I'll be seeing if okay? Because the thing is that these family members, they get insurance from the other providers, but we might actually be able to form a partnership with the different providers, and also potentially there might be some potential for data exchange with regards to how often they get into accidents, or what kind of accidents do they suffer from, or did they have issues with. So that's one. So I mean, it's actually getting data from a third party insurance provider or partner. That's one. And the stats from the transport department of accidents. So that's a very interesting statistic, and I think Subir mentioned a good point. But maybe one thing you can think about is also whether this will be applicable to a particular person. So I think it's important to get contextualized data as well. So having something that is more specific to individual people can make the offer of insurance, auto insurance, more personalized and more targeted. So I think this is a good statistics. Essentially, it just it sets a baseline, but it's not like curated or personalized for this person you're selling to. Also club two products together for students. Yeah, I think that's definitely that. Yeah, but essentially, yeah, there's many different data points that we can use when we want to assess whether someone is fit for insurance, whether it's even how they access our website, what links they go to from our website, what's the backlink, and even maybe they might have posted about their accidents on social media, who knows, or their car issues, or issues related to transport. Sometimes people post, oh, I'm waiting for the bus for so maybe oh, I got a car accident, or I just bought a new car, and then okay, so this person has a car, or this person has been in an accident sadly, right? Or this person, maybe his car was stalled on the road because he didn't manage to like pump enough fuel, or maybe someone scratched his car. I mean, there's so much information you can get about a particular person online. I mean, and companies are tapping into that. So that is, I mean, from this many different data points about this person and his or her family members, people are able to upsell insurance not just to the person itself but to their family members. So that's how I think about it. And I'm happy to hear your thoughts. But thanks, Subia, for your great contributions. Okay, so if that's all, I think I hope everyone has learned something today about data, and it was very nice to share all of these learnings with you. I mean, and I'm very thankful for all of you for sharing your thoughts and listening, and also coming up with different suggestions. So yeah, it's been a very good great experience for me, and also a very humbling experience to share my experience, even though I'm still in the midst of learning. I mean, all of us learn every day, right? So thanks for listening to me. Do let me know if you have any feedback or anything that I think I missed out in terms of content, or in terms of the delivery during this session, and very happy to learn from what you think. So thanks so much for your time.